Hello, everybody. I am Dr. Marianne Pinkston. Welcome back to The Better Life with Dr. Pinkston. And today I have got another wonderful show to bring to you guys. I think that the topic is a little near and dear to my heart. I'll be very transparent on this one. And I think that talking about our relationships with food based on some of our past experiences with, parents or, friends, exes, people that, we've come to love that don't necessarily love us have shaped and developed our relationships with food. And I have a wonderful guest today, such a bright star, Tori Janae. And so she has multiple degrees in psychology. She's got a long list of education and very bright young lady here. And so she has, I think her focus is in trauma, relationships, and confidence, all those things that we need help in. And I welcome you to the show. Thank you so much for coming on and talking with us today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you. So we've mentioned a lot in that, I think talking about trauma, relationships, confidence, that's a large book to unwind. And so I think when I think about my past, and always very transparent about the things that I've experienced, because I do believe that other people are experiencing the same thing, maybe don't really want to talk about it, feel very ashamed to talk about it.
Absolutely.
One thing that I had, and most of my audience knows, I was 300 pounds at one point, very overweight. And that was based on a horrible relationship with food, going to food for comfort. And I think if we look around us today with all the obesity and, metabolic disorders that we have in society, I think there is a huge button to push. So if you don't mind, we will focus on that. But please tell us a little bit about you and how you came to do what you do.
Yeah, I love to kind of start at the beginning because that tells us so much about my qualifications are long. Yes, I've got a great list of education, but I think my greatest qualification is that I've walked the fire of mostly everything I teach.
Yeah.
So I now today live in Beverly Hills, California. I'm, have all these degrees, but this was never who I should have been statistically. I was actually conceived in a heroin rehab facility by my mother, I was the result of an affair. My father was already married with 2 children, so he left. Wow. And I was raised on and off welfare. My mom was married multiple times. She struggled with addiction her whole life. Mm-hmm. I'm the oldest living member of my family. Everyone has passed. I ended up taking care of my siblings. There was just so much trauma as a child, having both of my parents. My stepfather also had addiction problems. Everyone my mom was surrounded with obviously had that. My sister ended up becoming an addict. She overdosed. She didn't even make it till 40. I'm the first woman and I'm the fourth. So my grandmother, my mother, my older sister were all had drug and alcohol problems. So I'm the first woman to not have that. However, mine showed up as sugar and food and different things. Different things because I made a conscious choice to not engage with alcohol early on. But we now know children of alcoholics and addicts, we've got the same dopamine addiction issues. So I've literally had to heal tons of trauma. I've been through death. I've been through divorce. I've been through so much grief that, cracks your soul open. And so when I speak about these things, yes, I'm giving us really clear and easy to use tools, but I always love people to know that I don't say this as someone who has not been in the lowest places of life and had to pull myself out of that. Or
amazing.
Yeah.
That's
so I always want to share that.
That's so important. And thank you. Thank you for being very transparent about that. And I do the same. And it's been a long road. And I think there's so many women. I know there are men out there who experience these issues, but I think there are so many women who are, dealing with these underlying issues. And so thank you for sharing that. And the dopamine drive that we get, I think addictions can come in many different flavors. We don't realize that porn, gambling, smoking, then alcohol and drugs, but eating is definitely an addiction that many aren't. I don't know if it's just a lack of knowledge that can be an addiction, but it is, and it's very important that we look at it in that fashion, which you've mentioned, and thank you for doing that. So, where does somebody start whenever you identify that you've got a problem? Where does somebody start?
Well, I love for people to kind of look at how do they self-soothe,
right?
And how are they feeling? A lot of people don't recognize that they have things that have happened to them that are affecting how they're self-soothing now. And like you said, it can be gambling, it can be your phone now, it can be food.
It's the truth.
Because we have to eat, food is the most slippery slope. And it's really hard to see that, like, we're not going to that. But I love to also look at the psychology or the internal feelings, which is you won't feel good about it. You'll be stuck in perfectionism, performing, people pleasing.
Right.
You'll suck your feelings down and then go to the fridge, you know? So it's like having that moment of self-awareness to say, checking in with yourself and saying, how am I feeling about the action that I'm taking? What is triggering that? Because we're just trying to meet a need, and it's usually emotional or psychological, but we start to meet it physiologically because maybe no one ever met it for us mentally, emotionally, or physically. And so food became, what I love to say, food became our mother. Food became the thing that soothed us. And it is such a powerful chemical release that it does make us feel better. And I know that because, like, my grandmother as a child, you know, had all this trauma. And my grandmother was emotionally distant. She was a lovely woman, but, you know, she was a German woman and just, you know, very different. And anyway, but she fed you. That's how she showed love. And so many of us don't even know how deeply ingrained that is, that food equals love. Like, if I got cookies, it's like, wow, I'm loved. And that was the only deep love I'd really experienced. And I think a lot of women don't recognize that with our partners, our parents, our children, we're not feeling those connections. And so we're looking desperately for that connection. We're hardwired for that connection. And if we don't get it, we will seek it in the easiest form possible.
Yeah. Very, very, very well said. And so, and it is an addiction in that when you partake in that act and you raise that brain chemical, dopamine, and it provides you with that boost, that high, you do get a high from it. But then after that, after you engage, not too long after that, then you experience that grand low again and that guilt. You know, why did I, do that to myself? People know they're not doing the correct thing. And so powerful, right? Very powerful in that high that you get.
Yeah, it's like, I love the way I've described it as like, it's like drinking salt water, but not being satiated. It's like we get the momentary relief, like we feel the relief when we eat the food. We get that temporary high. But what we don't understand about dopamine is it's not bad, but when we're constantly skyrocketing it, then we need more and more and more to get that same effect. And so it keeps getting worse and it becomes this horrible cycle. And I want to say maybe Janine Roth said this, but like it's called, someone I read with food particularly, they call it the eat, repent, repeat.
Right.
And so we'll eat, we'll feel bad and guilty, and we'll say, I'm never going to do that again. But the guilt and the shame actually lead us to do it again, but often even worse the next time. True. And so I love to just kind of share that and know that that's just the cycle in the brain. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. Your brain's just trying to get the same relief it once got before. And it's actually trying to now relieve you from the guilt and the shame you feel from what you just did. Right. And a lot of times that the core driver that's actually making us do that has nothing to do with the food at all, but the emotions that underlie it. And I think particularly with trauma, we're really scared of that word. And I love Dr. Pinkston said earlier that it was like a buzzword right now.
It is. It's real.
And I love to redefine trauma for people because I think we think of trauma as like being robbed or going to war or physical sexual assault. All these things are absolutely huge traumas. Right. But there's also emotional and relational trauma. So it might even be having a parent who had mental health issues or a sibling who had health issues and like you couldn't be tended to. Your parent could have just had attachment disorder, meaning that they were an avoidant attacher and didn't know how to soothe you properly. That gives you just as much trauma because your nervous system got wired to not feel comforted, soothed, taken care of. So you had to do it yourself. And so I love to redefine trauma as it is just the disconnection from feeling safe and loved. And we've all experienced that, whether it was a crappy boyfriend, a stressful boss, a critical mother who talked about your weight all the time, and said you shouldn't eat this, you shouldn't eat that. That is still trauma. And so 99% of the women I work with just say, oh, I'm not traumatized. It's like, well, you wouldn't have these behaviors if you weren't, babe. So let's look.
Let's look.
Yeah. So it's kind of like allowing ourselves to not it's not about blame or anything like that. It's like, I always say it's not your fault what happened, but it's your responsibility to understand it and how it affected you.
Correct. And so based on that, with that, attachment to food and the guilt, that we have and that, repetitive behaviors, it's very, fighting an eating addiction is as tough as stopping smoking. I mean, it is incredibly tough to draw away from. So, I did that. That's something I had to face. And I literally had somebody sit and say, Dr. Pinkston, you have an eating disorder. And I took that really hard because I imagine bulimia, anorexia, I imagine these really, drastic, diseases that women have with eating disorders. And I thought, it's just that bad relationship with food, wanting to go back and overeat and using that to soothe myself as an eating disorder. Yes, it is. And it's very important to look at it as such before you can take those next steps to heal. This was 8 years ago, and I still deal with it. I may be thinner, I may be in much better shape, but I still deal with that in my head. And I find too that some people then will transfer, they won't eat as much, but maybe they'll go to shopping or, some other behavior. Many people who get bariatric surgery with, a gastric sleeve, gastric bypass, they can't eat as much, will turn to alcohol now and just transfer, their addiction to something different. So where does a person begin to take a look and start to unravel all of that?
Yeah, most people who are struggling with any form of addiction, like you said, whether it's porn or gambling or alcohol, the reason we're getting bariatric surgery and going to alcohol is because the food is no longer available to numb the pain.
That's right.
And I believe that all addiction at root cause is some form of pain that we're not able to deal with.
Absolutely.
And so it's finding the source of that pain and being brave enough to say, like, what feelings am I actually running from? And you're this person if you're always busy, you can't sit still, you're always finding the next thing to worry about. You're worried about your kids, you're worried about your partner, you're worried about your job, but you never even know if you have to go to the bathroom.
Right.
I know, and I'm telling you, these are the signs internally that you are running from your own stuff. And I was her. Trust me, I was a 20-something-year-old workaholic who worked full-time putting herself through school. I was a type A, hypercritical, driven perfectionist. So these are all the things that are showing us that we're running from our pain. I had dumpster fires full of trauma within me. But I was terrified to look at it because I thought if I did, it would explode and blow my life apart.
Oh, yeah.
But it's really what opened me up to actually receive the love and the care and the connection that I actually desired.
Yeah.
Because a lot of women, particularly who have like this addiction to food, to another like psychological trait I see, is they are overgiving, overfunctioning, overlovers, and they worry about everyone else in their life, but not themselves.
Not themselves.
And so that's another big one is like, if you notice in your life, you're taking care of, right? I don't know if you see that too, but that's what I've always noticed.
Oh gosh, yes. Oh gosh, yeah. I give the speech all the time, put your mask on first before you put it on somebody else. But I find a lot of that is in trying to please. It's not, the over love is there for sure. You're loving somebody else much more than you love yourself because you've never understood, love for yourself, but also just trying to please, trying to find approval.
And pleasing is what's fascinating is that is a trauma response.
Yeah.
We have fight, flight, freeze, fawn. Fawn is people pleasing. Wow. So that means somewhere in your history, you had to make someone happy or deal with someone's bad behavior to stay safe. What does that mean? That means you threw out your boundaries, you read other people, and you worried if they were okay and not you. And you had to suck down how you really felt. And I can relate to this in my own life. Like I was just talking to my brother about this. Because of my mom's addiction, I always had to kind of read her and see how she was feeling.
Right.
And I could never call out her behavior and say like, wow, this thing you did was horrible and it really hurt my feelings. I just had to suck down my feelings and find another way to soothe myself.
Absolutely.
And I carried that into all of my relationships because I didn't know how to actually express what I felt. And I see this so much, and particularly like, with women who have eating, I love to call it disordered eating. So that way we don't feel as bad when we label it.
Yeah.
Because anything that's not eating to nourish and take care of myself, and that includes having chocolate here and there, of course. I'm a big fan of the 80-20 rule. And I weigh less now than I did when I was younger, for sure.
Yeah.
When I was in all that trauma, I ate a lot more. I'm pretty tiny. I'm only like 5'3". So I definitely weighed about 20 plus pounds more. And I've never dieted. I've really done the inner psychological work to change
so
how
important.
I show up. Yeah, because for me, it was like I said, it was cookies, it was cake, it was candy. Like I was someone who always had that to kind of escape to. That's how I dealt with my feelings. I didn't have a mother who would actually do anything for me. So I just love to kind of help people kind of tick these inner boxes of like, am I aware of my own needs? Do I know how I feel? Am I concerned about everything and everyone else? Because that's a sign that you're abandoning yourself.
Right. Right. And abandonment is so that is kind of the trigger. So in a lot of people that I see, me too. So I feel like if I'm in a relationship and I feel like somebody, I'm trying to, meet my needs and trying to get them to meet my needs. If they don't, there's this internal like flip that sends the anxiety and the, that thought process, that workaholic kind of type A, kind of run away from, or, just trying to grasp around me something that doesn't feed that abandonment. It's deep. It's really deep.
I love that you said that, because actually, like, that's one of my free books is the 7 psychological wounds that create this disconnection from ourselves. They erode our confidence, but I think that's one of the core wounds that a lot of us, like, we have the abandonment wound, the guilt wound, where we feel guilty if we ever ask for our needs to be met, the betrayal wound, all of the, like, kind of the not enough wound. We all have these in us. And it's like, if we can recognize how they show up, but like that fear of abandonment is so deep because we are hardwired to connect. And when we feel like we're going to be left, I love to explain this to women particularly, is like, we kind of feel silly that we get so anxious when we feel someone withdrawing or not giving us what we need, or we don't know how to ask for it, or we feel them pull away and we cling more. We kind of think like, oh, it's so annoying. I can't believe I do this. We get frustrated with ourselves, and I've been there too. But historically, if we were kicked out of the tribe back in the day, we died. So our nervous systems are ancient. They still remember.
That's a survival mechanism.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not that anything's wrong with us. It's just that our wiring has to be retuned and retooled. It's like faulty, it's just ancient wiring that has gotten triggered to keep you safe. And now it keeps you stuck in negative dynamics.
Absolutely. And I think we are hardwired for negativity anyway, aren't we? I think it's like 80% of our thoughts are negative, but it's based on, we don't live with being fanned and fed grapes, back in the day of cavemen or whatnot. We weren't hardwired for survival. If we were surviving that way, right? But no, we were chased by the bear. We were constantly on the hunt for food. We were, it was all survival. So I think our brains are trained more in a negative fashion, right?
Yes. In neuroscience, they've proven this. Like it's actually called the negativity bias. So we are hardwired to look for what's wrong and to solve problems to survive. And so the body is completely designed to survive. And I love to explain this too when it comes to like weight loss and health with women, because it's like, if my body has to choose how to make its hormones, I have the master hormone pregnenolone. But if it has to choose between progesterone, which is the calming hormone, or cortisol, it is always going to make me some cortisol, because that's what I need to survive.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh,
so that just goes to show us, like, we are biologically wired to survive. And so I think if some part of me got wired to think that, like, someone leaving me, I won't survive. Right. Me not people pleasing, I won't survive. Me setting boundaries, I won't survive. I won't be safe. We'll always prioritize that. And there's nothing wrong with us. It's just an outdated survival strategy that we can absolutely rewire.
Right. And outdated is well said, because if you like, I'm 56 years old, I'm still living this way. Like, when are you going to get it? Right. Survived a lot, and everybody who knows me well knows I've turned things around. I'm in a great marriage now, and things are wonderful around me. But my goodness, that ghost comes back to haunt, and it comes back to haunt often. And so, I know I have my own support system around me and everything that I'm trying to master, but there's a lot of people who don't have understanding and support around them to be able to try to change this thinking. And it is about that. It is within you to change that thinking. But if you aren't taught those tools, then how do you start? Where do you begin?
Well, luckily there's so much information out there. Even if you start with listening to podcasts like this, starting to do that self-inquiry. I would say 15 minutes of self-awareness each day is better than, can be as effective as weekly therapy.
Right.
Because you're just taking time to say, like, how did I feel today? What was I avoiding? What triggered me? Because your triggers are your teachers. Your triggers are showing you. They're literally identifying your wounds.
Well said.
If I got triggered, if I get triggered, I can sit with that trigger and say, gosh, my boyfriend said this. What did that make me feel? What do I believe about myself?
Right.
Oh, I believe like they're going to leave, or they don't love me, or I'm not good enough. Whatever it is, it's like just that core self-honesty. And I know that's scary. There's a book by Dr. Nicole LaPera called How to Do the Work. I think she does a good job of explaining this, like for, buy a book for $10. And so I love to start with the free things that we can do to start healing this.
Yeah, absolutely.
I jokingly call it the ABCs of healing. I start with my awareness. In that awareness, I start to learn what I believe about life and myself. And then I can be in that, like the C's, which is like the consciousness, and I start cleaning house mentally, emotionally, physically. And that doesn't mean I have to change everything. People get really terrified of that. They think, oh gosh, if I really look at this, I'm going to have to break up with my husband or stop talking to my parents or whatever. But you shifting a lot of times will naturally change that relationship with them. Absolutely. And I've seen that thousands of times.
Yeah. Yeah. And don't look at it as changing somebody else. Look at it as changing you. And it's like a ripple effect. You drop a little drop in a puddle, and you watch those ripples effect, right? And that's it. It does that with your children, with your family, with your spouses, and it does that ripple effect is amazing. You just sit back and be patient and watch that, and that's hard to do. Be patient.
Yeah. So self-aware, sitting with yourself. Taking a walk, finishing the stress cycle is huge. Like a 15-minute walk. If you have a fight with your partner or your boss says something awful, get up, move your body, dance, do your deep breaths into your belly. These are all really simple things that will start grounding you in yourself. So you can start giving yourself your own nervous system safety. Like if you want to go eat a pan of brownies, count to 10, take 4 deep, box breaths, and just be honest about, okay, I really want to do this. I'm just going to pause. There's all your power's in that pause. And then one of my favorite tools to teach my clients is, even though I'm going to eat this entire pan of brownies, I deeply love and accept myself.
Wow. Hard to do.
It is,
and look in the mirror while you do that.
If you can, yes, that's
make it
next
really
level.
hard.
That's next level. But I found that is a great way to start breaking that shame cycle right away.
Right.
It's like, okay, even though I'm going to eat this, even though I'm going to do it, I'm still going to do it. I'm hell bent on it. That's okay. Right. I still deeply love and accept, or even if you can't say I can't, I love it. I love myself. You can say I accept myself and what I'm doing right now. And I know it's just what I need, and I can always make a better choice tomorrow. It's just saying something that stops us. And the even though is important, because that's a little psychological trick.
Absolutely.
It's a resistance factor.
Like intentional self-sabotage. It definitely can be okay for a moment, but eventually you've got to. I love what you said though. Finish the stress cycle. I think that's a little pathway there that's interesting. Explain that. Yeah.
So whenever we get triggered in any way, and triggers look different for everybody, it can be a body sense, it can be a mental sense. Like you can, your partner can say something and you can snap or be like, how could you say that or think that? Triggers look different for all of us. Sometimes we suck it back and we just feel it in our throat and our stomach, like, oh, I can't believe they said that or did that. Right. So when you have that response, whenever you feel triggered or upset or off, your body has now been kicked into fight or flight. And you've got to do something physically to stop it. So that ancient system, like we talked about, if we were being chased by a bear, we would have run, we would have completed that stress cycle. We would have got away and our body would have said, whew, we did it.
Yes.
We don't do that anymore. We don't complete a stress cycle. We get triggered by our boss or our partner or our child or whatever, and we sit with it and we hold it and it keeps going. Our body doesn't know to flip out of trigger, stress, fight or flight, and into rest and digest. So we stay in gas pedal on. And there's a woman out of, I can't remember if it's Harvard, but Emily Nagoski, she's done a lot of research on this. And she found that taking a quick walk, a 15-minute walk with blood serum levels was one of the most effective things to start reducing cortisol and get us out of that state. And I always love to explain to people this. Think about a time when you got into an argument or a tiff with someone and you kind of shut down or you didn't say the right thing, or like you're almost embarrassed by what you said or did. You're like, oh my God, I just stood there and I didn't know what to say and I feel so stupid now, right? And then about 4 hours later, your mind comes up. All of a sudden, it just starts to flow. You're like, oh, I should have said this and I should have said that and blah, blah, blah. Like, and that's because it took about 4 hours for your frontal lobes to come back on. It took about 4 hours for you to complete that stress cycle by just sitting in it. So if we do something physical, you know, if your kids ticked you off this morning because they were being brats trying to get out of the house to get to school, turn on a song, make everybody dance, like get it out of the system. It will shift you faster than any thought process. I always say, if you're stuck in your mind, drop into your body.
Very good. Oh, wow. That's really good. And also too, you mentioned box breathing, which I love. And I tell people about all the time. I don't know that I've ever had anybody explain it though. And so would you run through that? Would you explain box breathing? Because it's insanely helpful.
Yeah, no. So what we know about trauma is that it actually lives in the body. Trauma, stress, like we said, like the triggers, all lives in the body. And only our breath is the easiest thing. Our breath, movement are the things that connect us to our nervous system. So if I do a box breath, I'm going to do, like, imagine just seeing a box in your mind. You're going to do that inhale up for 4. You can hold it for 4. And then you're actually going to exhale for 8.
Okay.
So, and the reason why, it's the physiological sigh. It is when we exhale longer than we've inhaled, our body gets the signal that we're safe.
Wow.
Sometimes you see this in little kids when they're really upset and they've been crying. And when they start coming down, they start going,
yeah.
Yeah. And you'll actually see them like you'll hear the double sigh, you'll hear the long release.
Yep.
It's natural in all of us. So we're taking that mechanism and making it intentional.
Wow.
We're telling our body now, I'm going to inhale for 4. I'm going to hold for 4. I'm going to exhale for 8. So you can think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But sometimes people call it the box breath. I've called it the triangle breath. It goes a million ways, but it's most commonly called the box breath. So I love that. There's also, I'm a yoga teacher as well. There's also something we call Nadi Shodhana, which is very calming to the nervous system. And you can Google how to do that. It's NADISHONDANA, but it's ultimately alternate nostril breathing. So I take in a breath through one nostril, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. What is it doing? It's taking both sides of my brain and it's integrating them.
Interesting.
And so that's also very calming to the nervous system. But box breath is the easiest. If you really get triggered, then go to the that's another way to call it, is alternate nostril breathing. Okay. That is also very good for the nervous system. It's like taking each side of the energetic system. It's, the lunar, the solar, the masculine, the feminine, all those things are kind of all intertwined into it, but it's the easiest self-energy work you can do. There's also, I love EFT tapping, energy psychology. You can Google how to do that for free, but that is like neuroscience and acupressure had a baby. Yep. It's just teaching my nervous system to calm down in that triggered state. You can even just tap the sides of your hands together, like along the sides of the palms. Like, even though I'm craving this food really bad right now, I deeply and completely accept myself. We're just looking for anything to give you that pause and that a bit of calm to make a better choice.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Which is great. I think that with many people will, and I don't know a better way to say it, just kind of poo-poo the tapping, the yogas or things like that, but they don't realize that the neurological system is changeable. It is what we call neuroplastic, right? So we've been told that once we are hardwired to something, that is it. It is hardwired. The neurological system, once it dies, it can't be restored. It can't be changed. But, I can't teach an old dog new tricks. All those things come to mind. And it actually is. Neuroplasticity is something that we can use to change our behaviors, not only our behaviors, but some of our actual, physical changes that we want to make, psychological, physical, spiritual, all of those things. We can make the brain change. And these are ways of contacting those things together. The psychological, the spiritual, all that together is to get the brain. So tapping and yoga, I love yoga. I love meditation, all those things that have been poo-pooed for a very long time are actually changing the neurological system and making them more
now we've
And so we know.
First of all, these have been around for like 5,000 years.
Absolutely, they have.
And second of all,
anything that's been around for 5,000 years.
Yes, and believe me, I was a young psychology student who didn't believe in any of this stuff. But then I took my first yoga class at like 21, and I floated out of there. I'd never actually felt calm before that class.
That's beautiful.
And so that's what got me interested in it. And then later, like the number one doctor in the world on trauma is Dr. Bessel van der Kolk. And he's out of Harvard, and he wrote a book on how to heal trauma. And he really talks about you can't ever really truly heal the trauma, but you heal the body. He has an entire chapter on yoga. So what's beautiful is that neuroscience is now proving that all of these tools change the brain, how meditation changes the brain. We've got functional MRIs that show it, breath work, sitting at the ocean, taking a walk in nature. Like we can actually see the brain changes. And I think we like to poo-poo it because it's so simple. It shouldn't work.
Thank you for using my term and making it scientific today.
But like one of my good friends is one of the foremost neuroscientists in the UK and the US, Dr. Tara Swart. She is MIT trained, MD, PhD, like you name it. She's been on everyone from Lewis Howes to Jay Shetty to like you name it. She's on it. But we talk about this so much. Like really, not much is hardwired. Yeah. And the older that she's gotten, now she's in her 50s, the more she's actually getting into this stuff. And she's like, as a doctor, like I did put all these things to the wayside and I did not really think any of them would work.
Because we're trained that way as phositions. We know we're trained that way because I was there too. No, absolutely. Wow. Well, I want to let people know where they can find your information. We're going to take a very, very short break. Where can people find your information? You said you've got some publications. I love it. Let's let them know where they can find it.
Yeah, the easiest way to find me is my website, which is torijanae.com, TORIJENAE.com. And then, of course, you can connect with me on Instagram if you're on there, LinkedIn, all those things. But Tori.Janae is on Instagram. Good. And I love people when they DM me and ask me questions. Totally good with that.
That is great. You're still in contact. I do the same thing. My contact form. If you go to drp.betterlife.com, my contact form is there. I still answer all my own stuff. It's a lot of work and I love it because we still have to reach out to, we still have to be in contact with people. So I appreciate that very much. We are going to take a very short break and be back on the other side and continue our thoughts here.
Depression, anxiety, low energy, weakness, these are just some symptoms of low B12 levels. And the absorbable B12 folate supplement that's helping people declare victory over depression symptoms is De Novo Plus B12 by Magna Pharmaceuticals. Patients with symptoms of depression often exhibit low levels of folate and vitamin B12. The human body needs sufficient folate intake to produce the essential neurotransmitters serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine. These neurotransmitters alleviate feelings of sadness, anxiety, and gloom. What makes De Novo Plus B12 so successful? De Novo Plus B12 contains readily absorbable folate and B12. That means it's more successful at correcting the root cause of your deficiency, not just the symptoms. Whether you are suffering with low energy, depression, fatigue, or anxiety, you owe it to yourself to learn more at magnaweb.com. That's magnaweb.com. Please let us know at checkout that you heard about De Novo Plus B12 on The Better Life with Dr. Pinkston.
I have to thank Magna. Well, they are the Magna Pharmaceuticals, a tiny little pharmaceutical company, have been so sweet to me, and I appreciate them very much. And I appreciate you. Thank you for being on today. We are talking about a lot of things. Trauma. I wanted to kind of go the direction with the relationship with food, because I find so many people, are overeating at the sake of their self-confidence, and we're getting into a lot of metabolic disorders and heart disease, dementia, and all these things just from this behavior. And this is something we've got to face and stop, but it's a deeper issue. Yeah. It's much, much deeper. You've mentioned a couple of fantastic things, ways that we can, things that we can read, ways that we can approach this from home. The two thoughts. One is therapy. I think therapy, you can call it life coaching, you can call it whatever you want to. I think the support is mandatory. I find many people are very afraid of therapy, are very afraid of coaching, are very afraid of sitting with another person who exposes their stuff. And so I want people to understand therapy, though, and coaching, and how it works, and why it's something not to be ashamed of and to seek, for sure.
Yeah, I always say, we want to be mentally and physically well. Mm-hmm. And we know that if we want to be physically well, we have to go to the gym, or we have to exercise our bodies. We have to move it. We have to do something daily. It's the same thing if we want to be mentally well. It's no different than if you wanted to really get in great shape, you would get a personal trainer, and that will keep you accountable. That will show you things that you don't know, and it will make you show up. And it's the same thing with therapy or coaching. And I get that it can be scary. And I was scared as well, because like I said, I was afraid to kind of open Pandora's box.
Yeah.
And it won't be easy at times, because you're going to have to see things about yourself that maybe you don't want to see initially. But that's where all the freedom comes in. Like, I can't imagine going through life now without that self-awareness. If I had not done the therapy that I did, the self-work that I did, the coaching, I've done so many healing modalities. That's what gave me the strength to get through. I lost my mom, my sister, my grandma, my dad, my best friend, my 18-year marriage, all within a couple years.
Yeah. Mm.
And if I didn't have those tools that I'd learned, I would have never got through that. And by the way, I did that without any alcohol, drugs, food addiction. I did that stone cold sober.
Amazing.
So I love to tell people, if you want to be mentally well and healthy and resilient, which is what we all want to be, so that we can actually feel happier. And It's not about being happy all the time. This is a big misconception. No. I love to tell people, look, your life, if I hooked you up to a heart monitor, what's it going to do? It's going to go up and down. That means you're alive. If it flatlines, which is what we think we should be, you're dead. Right. And it's the same thing mentally and emotionally.
Absolutely. Great analogy.
So we want to be able to handle the lows and enjoy the highs of life, and allow ourselves to let it in, allow ourselves to enjoy, give ourselves permission. And therapy should give you self-awareness.
Absolutely.
Tools. Now, make sure it's the right connection, of course.
Thank you.
It's okay to break up with your therapist. I would say if you've done 12 sessions with someone and you don't feel any better, they are not helping you. Go to someone else. I literally, with my clients when they're new, I will say, do 4 sessions with me. If you do not see a difference, no harm, no foul.
Right.
It's because I'm so confident that I'm always choosing the right relationship with people. But it's I want them to know, you are going to feel better. You're going to see yourself differently. You're going to have some new tools. Or I'm not effective and you should find someone else. Because I truly believe that. And a lot of people try to, you should not be in therapy for 17 years. That is not helpful unless you feel like you are constantly growing. So I always want to explain that to people too. Therapy can be a short-term thing to learn something, to get through something, or it can be something I've got clients who I've seen for 11 years, but they come to me twice a year just to check in, or they've gone through something. So it can look any way you want it to look. Remember, you're in charge of your healing. But the biggest reason it's so helpful is that we are harmed and traumatized in relationship, and we are healed in relationship. So having another human witness you, reflect back to you, hold you properly, you should never feel judged. You should feel seen. You should feel heard. That is more healing than anything you could possibly do.
Well said. That is absolutely amazing. And I agree with you. I'm so glad you said that. I tell my patients all the time about their physician. If you're not getting what you need from your provider, you can fire that, or, break up, however you want to see it, and move to somebody new and get what you need. You are welcome to search for what you need. You know what you need. And I tell that all the time about therapy or coaching, or however you want to look at it, if it's like having a boyfriend, if if the chemistry's not there, your needs aren't getting met, you kind of have to break up with that one and go date the next one, right? It's like dating. So definitely something to shop for.
Yeah, it's like give someone a chance and recognize, and that's where a little bit of self-awareness comes in. Like, are they telling me things that I really just don't want to hear? Yeah. Or is it just not helping? Because, I've had so many clients tell me that like 7 sessions with me has been more effective than years of therapy. And it's because I can work differently. I am a coach, I can ask different questions. I can go deeper, faster.
Absolutely.
Therapy, and I love to tell people the difference sometimes, because it's different. So sometimes therapy is something you need to get to functioning well. So if you're really struggling with deep food addiction, find someone who specializes in that.
Right.
Therapy will get you to functioning well. Coaching will really help you get to flourishing. It's kind of your next level. People who work with me have typically done a little something before they get to me, because I'm going to go deep. I'm going to get to root cause. We're going to do everything. Energy work, energy psychology. We're going to really work on rewiring things. So you got to have enough self-awareness to do the kind of work that I do.
Right.
So being honest with where you're at in your journey. If you need a little bit help, gaining that self-awareness, connecting the dots, therapy is a great place to start. But anyone that, again, like makes you feel seen, makes you feel heard, I really believe that everybody needs some form of therapy or coaching. Because like I said, we need that person who can be objective but loving and reflect back to us not only our greatness, but where we get in our own way. Because we all know what we should do.
Right.
But this is why New Year's resolutions don't work, et cetera. Like, I know exactly what I should do.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean my psychology will let me do it.
Yeah. People will say, well, I've got my friends, I've got my church, I've got, my spouse. And I'm like, it's different. They don't really understand tools and, guiding you as to how to, they'll listen and they can be a great sounding board, but sometimes they can't be very objective first. No. And next, then they don't understand the tools that you need to start to change. And that needs to be pointed. It is uncomfortable at times. It can be very difficult. You can walk out of a session and feel completely drained. But you've done some work then, like a good workout, right? You go and you get a workout. Yes. And oh my gosh, she kicked my rear end. And but you did some work. You're building something. You're changing. Your body's changing. So same thing with the mind.
And it's true with our friends and our partners. I love that you brought that up, because I love to explain, like, the role of our partner is to be loving, accepting, and always be on our side. And we don't always need that to grow. Right. The role of our friends is to support us, to tell us we're right, to tell us that boyfriend was awful, all that kind of stuff.
For sure, right?
Right, yeah. So it's like we want that in our friends. And we all should have that friend who will, and I definitely have 2 of them, like, thank God, that will call me out and say, okay, girl, like, this is what's on you.
Exactly, which is good.
But both of those friends, for me, are trained, right? So it's like 99% of what people say to you when they are your friends, your church members, your partner, is about your relationship and about their own stuff. And that's what we call projection. And so I love to explain that to people, because we can feel really bad after a conversation with friends sometimes. And it's not even our fault. It's because that's what they said is about them. And there's not really right or wrong globally. There's right or wrong for you. And so a therapist will help, or a coach, or someone who's well-trained will help you get that clarity within yourself. They'll help you understand who you truly are, what you need to do, and like you said, give you the awareness, the understanding, and the tools to actually move forward for once, and to stop feeling. I always say we typically do this when we're sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yeah, absolutely. Why do you have to reach your absolute low to start finally picking up and coming back up? But it seems to happen every time, and that's okay. That's okay. Just don't let it.
Powerful teacher, and that's what it's designed to do. Humans we're pretty easily wired to go away from pain and toward pleasure. And that gets us into a lot of trouble. That's where it come from.
And every addiction I can think of an example.
So the pain of staying the same has to outweigh the momentary pleasure that we get. And that's when
Absolutely.
we change.
And that's so true. And I think even, again, I always relay things back to my own experience, but there was a moment where I was so tired of being overweight and feeling so horrible that it was just time. And everybody has to reach that level on their own. Only you know when that time is, but it's that ultimate moment where you're like, okay, enough is enough. Yeah. And when you reach that point, just look for these tools, to help catch you. As you fall,
don't do it alone.
Don't do it alone. Really don't.
Especially when it comes to rock bottoms. And rock bottom, I love the saying in addiction work where like the rock bottom looks different for everyone. We don't have to go to the basement. Rock bottom might be floor 4. We're like, okay, I'm low enough. I'm
lucky you. Right. Lucky you if you didn't go to the basement first. But right?
Most of us have to go to the basement.
Absolutely. And I mentioned that there were 2 things that I want to ask you about because, and one was that, but the other is something like EMDR. Or I think it's ART. There's a lot of different therapies now that are very interesting, and that functions on that neuroplasticity, that our neurological, physical neurological system, physiological neurological system can then also help to control just our emotional, mental health as well. Is that something that you support? I don't know if you do or not, but is that something you advise or support?
No, I think EMDR is great, particularly if EMDR is called eye movement rapid desensitization. Right. So think of it as like if your brain has a very stressful file, like a big trauma. Let's say you're in a car accident, there was a physical abuse of some sort, particularly if it's like if it's a specific one you can remember, it is so effective. Because what the brain does is that's what flashbacks are. It's like the brain bringing back a stressful thing and saying, hey, don't forget about this. Don't forget about this. We don't know what to do with this. It's really bothering us. So don't forget about it. And so it wants to be filed. And so essentially EMDR helps the brain file it properly. It reduces the charge. Because when we have a charged emotional connection to a memory, it keeps coming backward. And sometimes we're aware of that and sometimes we're not. It depends on that. I do something called energy psychology, which is a little bit different, but it's an energy healing tool that's approved by the APA. The difference between the two is that with EMDR, you have to be able to tune into what happened. You might have to relive it. I have a very good friend who did a lot of EMDR for childhood sexual molestation. Yeah. She had to go through a lot of it, and it helped her a ton. Some people get too re-traumatized by doing that.
Understood.
So if you have what I call complex PTSD, which is what I have, I have so many, my entire childhood was a trauma. Like I can't even pick out all of them. Like it took me 10 years of work to get through a lot of it. So sometimes I just had to focus on the feeling. Just that feeling of disconnection or unsafety or whatever it was. So I like to kind of explain like where you are. If you've got something really specific, look for someone who does EMDR because I find it's very effective. Okay. If you've got some core memories like childhood bullying, things your mom said to you, whatever it is, EMDR will help you. Like I said, it will file those files and make them come up for you less.
Gotcha.
If it's just a constant feeling that you have all the time, let's do more nervous system work. Let's get you feeling safe in your body. That can be yoga, that can be coaching, that can be somatic work, that can be dancing. Like I want to just help you get into your body at first. Wow.
That is great. So thank you for delineating that because it's not something I was aware of. The EMDR was so focused like that, but it is. I've had people who, had fear of heights for some reason, be able to get on an airplane after 1 or 2 treatments. It's
so effective.
It's so
like I said, it can work for the other kinds. It depends on how good the practitioner is.
But I get it. Yeah.
But I feel like it can work really fast. Like you just described, if you've got something really good, specific. Yeah, like you kind of know, like it doesn't have to be exact, but you kind of know like, gosh, I was bullied a lot as a kid and that comes up for me a lot. And I see how like maybe I don't speak up because of it or, whatever, like you just kind of know what it is, then they can dive right into that with you and you can get results really fast. Interesting. Wow. That is amazing. You know what? We could go for hours. This is amazing. Thank you. Really, really enlightening and I think extremely effective. Unfortunately, we are running out of time, but I do want people to know where they can find you, your information, and some of these tools. And I'm going to have this on my website too, but please let us know where we can find you. Yeah, connect with me at torijanae.com, my website, which will be in the show notes. And then also just on Instagram. Those are the 2 easiest. I'm found on lots of other places, but I always find it's easier to just remember Tori.Jane on Instagram, and same name for, Tori Janae, oneword.com. You can connect with me there. You can apply to do a introductory session. I only work with people that I truly know I can help, or I'll just tell you what might help you more effectively.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Perfect way to be. So I love it. And again, she's right. You can find all this in the show notes and on the website, drpbetterlife.com. And as well as all of my other shows. Been doing this a couple of years and I love it. And I bet this is going to be one of the top ones. Thank you. This is fantastic information and very helpful. And again, we try to get on the course of, eating, but I think trauma occurs in so many different areas. I mean, it's, it shows up in so many different areas of your life. And so if anybody's struggling, please reach out.
And what I love about that is that eating is the symptom of something deeper.
Absolutely.
And so we went to root cause. Eating is what's showing up, but that's not really what's wrong with you, love.
Absolutely. You're so correct. Thank you. I absolutely love it. Everybody, I hope you have any last thoughts. I usually give you a last thought moment. If there's anything we missed or a last thought.
Yeah, I guess last thought is just to know that you can overcome anything truly. I think my life is a living testament to that. Absolutely. You can heal anything. So just remember, you are not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. And you just have to unlearn some old behaviors.
Absolutely. It is as simple as that. A lot of work to do it, but it is as simple as that. Thank you so much for the inspiration and the honor of joining us today. I hope everybody has a fantastic week and have enjoyed this. Take care of each other, please. And we'll see you next time.